This is the story of a boy who grew up in a broken-down building on the fifth floor in Leningrad. A boy who had no good food, no decent clothes, no private bathroom, and no special comforts. The thin child who once spent his days chasing rats would later become one of the world's most powerful people. This is the story of Vladimir Putin, currently one of the world's most powerful leaders. Rumors swirl about Putin, that he drinks deer blood to stay young, that he injects red extract from deer antlers to look 40 at age 73, that he has body doubles ready when he falls ill. He's seen bathing in ice-cold water, riding horses, and shocking the world with his boldness. Those who believe in him consider him Russia's most committed leader who restored the nation. Those who hate him compare him to Hitler and call him a dictator. But the question is, who is the real Putin? In this video, we'll explore Putin's journey from a cramped room filled with hunger, death, and rats to becoming one of the world's most powerful leaders. We'll see how a film inspired his dream to become a spy, how KGB training shaped him, and how he entered politics after retiring from intelligence work. We'll examine how he lifted Russia from poverty, built power, manipulated the constitution to secure permanent leadership, and dealt with his enemies through imprisonment, poison, or plane crashes. We'll discuss his family, who have disappeared from public view, and ultimately understand who Putin really is: hero, villain, or a product of the system. After World War II, humanity believed it had learned its lesson. Millions of corpses, destroyed cities, and broken families convinced the world that war was never a solution. The United Nations was established to prevent easy invasions, but the 21st century proved that human memory is short. In February 2022, Russia started a war with Ukraine, raising fears of World War III. Over 140 countries voted against Russia at the UN. America and Europe imposed sanctions. NATO issued threats. But Putin didn't back down, always smiling and saying it was for security. Putin was born on October 7, 1952, in Leningrad, Soviet Union, the city we now know as St. Petersburg. This was the same city besieged by German forces for 872 days during World War II, where millions died from bombing and disease. Putin's father, Vladimir, served in the Soviet Navy and later fought in ground units, where he was severely wounded. His mother, Maria, worked in a factory. His grandfather had served as a chef to Soviet leaders Vladimir Lenin and Joseph Stalin, a poor family, but connected to the system. Before Putin was born, his family had already lost 2 sons. His older brother Albert died in childhood, and his second brother Victor perished in 1942 from hunger and illness during the Leningrad siege. Putin was so young he never knew where his brother was buried. Putin was his parents' last hope. They raised him despite tremendous hardship. After the war, most people in Leningrad lived in communal apartments, one flat shared by multiple families, each with a small room but sharing kitchens and bathrooms. Putin's family lived in one room on the 5th floor. Putin later said, "I come from an ordinary family. I spent a long time living this way." The neighborhood was filled with poverty, gangs, theft, and fights. Putin often recalled spending half his childhood climbing walls, running with friends, and especially chasing rats. Once when he cornered a large, dangerous rat, it suddenly lunged at him. Putin said that was the first time he understood that even the weakest creature, when cornered, will attack. Many believe Putin still remembers this rat story, especially when discussing NATO and Western countries. Putin wasn't a top student, though he had tremendous energy. His teacher Vera Gurvich noted he was restless in class but had unusual focus. He loved reading, especially Karl Marx, Lenin, and spy thrillers. In his free time, he went to the cinema, and that's where his life's direction changed. Around age 12, Putin began learning sambo and judo at the Soviet Red Army Sports Club. His mother disapproved, fearing he'd spend all day fighting instead of studying. But Putin was stubborn. He continued training and soon showed excellent performance in judo. Judo isn't just fighting, it's a mindset. Using your opponent's strength against them, timing, maintaining grip, and falling in ways that minimize injury so you can get back up and fight again. These principles would later appear throughout Putin's political strategy. The film that changed everything. As a teenager, Putin saw a spy movie showing how KGB agents conducted secret missions for their country, catching enemy plans and controlling everything from behind the scenes. Putin was so inspired that he decided that's what he wanted to do. In ninth grade, he went straight to the KGB office and said he wanted to become a spy. The officer smiled and said, "What's the hurry? First study law, then we'll see." For Putin, this wasn't a casual answer but direct guidance. He took it to heart. In 1970, he enrolled in the law department at Leningrad State University. He deliberately planned his path, first law school, then KGB, then whatever fate had in store. KGB career, 1975-1990. In 1975, after graduation, 23-year-old Vladimir Putin finally achieved his childhood dream, joining the KGB. He was sent to Leningrad's 401st KGB school for training in counterintelligence, foreign missions, and covert operations. His early years were spent in Leningrad, monitoring foreign diplomats and consular officers and gathering intelligence. In 1985, Putin's career took a major turn. He was posted to Dresden, East Germany. Officially, his role was German translator, but his real job was working with the KGB and East German secret police, Stasi, to monitor people who might work against the Soviet Union. This was when Germany was divided. East Germany aligned with the Soviet bloc, West Germany under American and European influence. Many East Germans wanted to flee to the West for freedom and better lives, which is why the Berlin Wall was built. The fall of the Berlin Wall, 1989. In 1989, the world watched as thousands of people climbed onto the Berlin Wall and tore it down. This wasn't just a concrete wall falling. It was the beginning of open rebellion against Soviet control. When the wall fell, Putin was stationed at the KGB office in Dresden. The angry crowd wasn't limited to Berlin. The wave spread throughout East Germany. One day, the furious mob moved toward the KGB and Stasi offices in Dresden. Putin sensed danger and called Soviet military headquarters. "The crowd is approaching our office. We're in danger. Send forces." The answer came, "We can't do anything without Moscow's orders." The crowd was in front, no backup behind. Putin had two options, run or stand firm. He chose the second. He went out alone, stood before the crowd, and shouted loudly, "Soviet soldiers are here. We have weapons. If anyone tries to enter, we will fire." Seeing the confidence on his face, the crowd stopped. Many say that day Putin didn't just save a building. He proved to himself that he doesn't run from danger. But it also planted a deep question. When I was risking my life for my country, why did Moscow abandon me? This is where Putin's trust in the Soviet system began to crack. He realized the leaders at the top had become disconnected from the people and their own agents. Afghanistan's defeat, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and finally the collapse of the Soviet Union all convinced Putin that the system had become weak. Kind appearing, but weak leaders destroy countries. From spy to politician, 1991-999. In 1990, Putin retired from the KGB with the rank of lieutenant colonel and returned to Leningrad. He started work in the External Relations Department at Leningrad State University, where he met Anatoly Sobchak, who later became Leningrad's first democratically elected mayor. Sobchak was charismatic, popular, and maintained good relations with the West. He liked Putin's quiet discipline and low-profile but effective working style, making him an advisor. Working with Sobchak gave Putin his first taste of open politics. He handled foreign investment, international deals, and business licenses for the city. Some corruption and mismanagement allegations were made against him during this period, but the cases didn't proceed. By 1994, pleased with his work, Putin was made deputy mayor of St. Petersburg. This was Putin's first strong political entry. But luck doesn't always run straight. In 1996, the city held elections. Sobchak lost, and Putin's position went with him. The question was, what next? The Moscow shift and rise to power. Putin made a move that changed the entire story. He shifted to Moscow. There he met Valentin Yumashev, son-in-law and close associate of Russian President Boris Yeltsin. Yeltsin was fond of alcohol, irregular, and surrounded by corruption scandals. His stumbling steps, drunken speeches, and bizarre behavior on TV became objects of worldwide mockery. The country's economy was nearly destroyed. Yumashev liked Putin's cool head, KGB background, and talk less, work more style. In 1997, Yeltsin made Putin deputy chief of the presidential staff. Gradually, Putin moved up within the system, becoming chief of the Federal Security Service, FSB, the KGB's successor, secretary of the Security Council, and within a few years, one of the most trusted and powerful officials in the Kremlin. His KGB experience helped him understand the real system of power. He knew which phone went to whom, which document sat on which desk, and what each minister's weakness was. As Yeltsin was entangled in alcohol and scandals, much of the daily work fell to officials like Putin, and Yeltsin's trust in Putin grew. Becoming prime minister, August 1999. On August 9, 1999, Boris Yeltsin suddenly made Putin Russia's acting prime minister. At that time, Islamic fighters from Chechnya had spread terror through bomb blasts and terrorist attacks. Apartment explosions killed hundreds and injured thousands. Angry Russia wanted a strong response, and Putin delivered. He ordered a full-scale war on Chechnya called the Second Chechen War. Thousands were killed and entire cities destroyed. But Russian TV channels repeatedly showed one message: we've avenged 300 innocent citizens. This war transformed Putin's image overnight. He became the tough leader who takes revenge, who hunts down terrorists. Putin's famous line, "We will pursue terrorists everywhere, even in the toilet." The destruction in Chechnya made Putin a hero within Russia, though much of the world saw it as human rights violations. But in Russia, Putin had become a hero. President Putin, 2000. In December 1999, Yeltsin suddenly appeared on TV and announced his resignation, nomming Putin as acting president. December 31, 1999, became a turning point in Russian history. Elections were held in March 2000, and Putin officially became Russia's president for the first time. Rebuilding Russia, 2002-008. When Putin first assumed the presidency in 2000, Russia was in bad shape. The chaos after the Soviet Union's collapse, mafia, suddenly rich businessmen, corruption were all hollowing out the country. Putin did two things. First, he reined in the oligarchs. Second, he made the state powerful again. During that period, international oil and gas prices rose sharply. Russia's oil and gas-dependent economy suddenly began to flourish. From 2000 to 2008, Russia's economy saw average growth of around 7%. People's incomes increased. Poverty was significantly reduced. Putin used this boom to his advantage. Pensions increased, government employees' salaries rose, the military modernized, and cities saw modern infrastructure. Average Russians felt this man might be tough, but he's working for us. That's why in 2004, when elections were held, Putin won with even more votes. Consolidating power. But Putin's model wasn't just based on economics, it was about power. He increased control over media. Major TV channels gradually came into the hands of Kremlin loyalists. Oligarchs who clashed with Putin, like Mikhail Khodorkovsky, were sent to prison for years on fraud and tax evasion charges. Their companies were broken up and given to state companies. The message was clear: make as much money as you want, but don't go against Putin politically. Constitutional games and permanent power. According to Russia's constitution, no one can be president for more than 2 consecutive terms. Putin had completed that limit by serving in 2000 and 2004. As 2008 approached, people thought he'd have to leave. But Putin played a KGB-style masterstroke. He didn't run for election himself. He made his close associate Dmitry Medvedev the presidential candidate and became prime minister himself. From the outside, everything looked constitutional: President Medvedev, Prime Minister Putin. But everyone in Russia knew where the real power lay. In 2012, Putin made another big move. Constitutional changes increased the presidential term from 4 years to 6 years. Putin became president again in 2012, this time for 6 years. He won his fourth election in 2018. In 2020, he took another significant step, constitutional amendments that reset previous terms, meaning he can run for president until 2036. He won the 2024 election, though Western countries and independent observers refused to recognize it as free and fair, accusing Putin of rigging. What happens to Putin's enemies? Speaking against Putin in Russia can be extremely dangerous, as many examples show. Anna Politkovskaya, famous journalist who reported on human rights violations by Russian forces in Chechnya. On October 7, 2006, Putin's birthday, her body was found outside her apartment, shot dead. Many see this as a clear message about what happens to those who ask too many questions. Yevgeny Prigozhin. In 2023, the Wagner Group chief openly attacked Russia's military leaders and even marched toward Moscow in what was called a mutiny. For a few hours, it seemed Putin's biggest military partner had turned against him. Later, they reached an agreement. He backed down. A few weeks of calm followed, then news came that Prigozhin's private jet had crashed. Everyone died. The world echoed with one question: was it an accident or a message? Many opposition leaders and businessmen have died, some by poison in London, some suddenly fell ill, some fled to Europe under suspicion of poisoning, many are imprisoned. Critics say Russia's system has been built so that openly standing against Putin is almost like suicide. The mystery of Putin's family. This is the part that makes Putin's story most mysterious. In the 1980s, while working for the KGB, Putin met an air hostess named Lyudmila. They married in 1983. Their elder daughter Maria was born in 1985, and younger daughter Katerina in 1986. Putin was posted in Germany, so the family was there with him. Both daughters later returned to Russia, but Putin deliberately kept their identity, education, and marriages away from the public. In interviews, he only said, "Both my daughters studied in Russia. They live in Moscow and lead normal lives." Some reports suggest Maria studied medicine and is involved in medical research and business, while Katerina was a rock and roll dancer and later connected to universities and business circles. But this is mostly media discovery. Putin has never officially made anything public. The reason: the less you show, the less of a target you become. As for marital relations, the distance between Putin and Lyudmila grew. Natalia, who worked on Putin's official biography, revealed that Lyudmila felt Putin didn't love her and had no time for family. She appeared with him on foreign tour during his first term, but then gradually disappeared. In 2013, they publicly announced their separation. Divorce was confirmed in 2014. After this, Putin's life became even more mysterious. Rumors about relationships with Olympic gymnast Elena Kabeva, secret children, stories of an illegitimate daughter studying in Paris. Several reports claimed Putin has more children, but the Kremlin never confirmed anything. The world's most powerful man keeps his personal life almost completely hidden from the world. No public role for his wife, no clear pictures of children, no family face. The rumors about Putin. The most famous rumor: Putin drinks deer blood to stay young, injecting red extract from antlers. In Siberia, there are indeed treatments where liquid extracted from deer antlers is considered good for health. But is there solid evidence Putin does this to stay young? No. These stories mostly circulate in Russian blogs, rumors, and anti-Putin campaigns. However, it's true that at 73, Putin appears doing horseback riding, swimming, gym, judo, and his image is always portrayed as young, fit, and very energetic. Another big rumor: body doubles. Social media and many reports often claim that for security risks or to hide illness, Putin sends his lookalikes to different occasions, especially at public events or high-risk areas. Some people compare photos and videos claiming that's not the real Putin, it's someone else. The Kremlin has always laughed off or dismissed these accusations. But the more secrecy, the more rumors. It's an old rule of the world. The real point is that Putin has kept his personal story, health, and family so secret that the empty space has filled with rumors. Putin's foreign policy and wars. Putin's story wouldn't be so controversial if limited to domestic power. His real game is connected to foreign policy and war. 2008, attacked Georgia and occupied some areas. 2014, took control of Ukraine's Crimea. 2015, provided military help to Assad's government in Syria. 2022, full-scale war on Ukraine. All these show Putin's mindset of wanting to show Russia as a superpower again, and seeing Western countries' growing influence as a direct threat. He has publicly said multiple times that he considers the collapse of the Soviet Union the biggest geopolitical tragedy of the 20th century. He believes NATO is gradually encircling Russia, first Poland, then Baltic countries, now Ukraine. In his view, if Russia doesn't show firmness, one day NATO will stand at its border. This thinking appears behind every major military decision. The Ukraine war has isolated Russia internationally. Heavy sanctions were imposed, but Russia turned its oil and gas toward Asia and other countries, finding its way. Critics say this war will destroy Russia. Supporters say the fight gives Russia security and is a battle for honor. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between these two views. But it's certain that Putin has sent the world a message. If Russia feels threatened, it won't hesitate to use tanks. Who is Putin? Hero, villain, or systems product? If you've listened carefully to the entire story, you'll see several things. Harsh childhood and shadow of war. Hunger, poverty, death of two brothers, and a war-torn city made Putin tough from childhood. KGB training. Secrecy, control, catching people's weaknesses, understanding the system from inside. All this came from the KGB. Right time, right place. Politics in St. Petersburg with Sobchak, then rise to the Kremlin with Yeltsin. A combination of political luck and Putin's planning. Tough image and power balance. From Chechnya to Ukraine, Putin showed that when he makes a decision, he doesn't care about world anger. But he keeps selling his people the dream of power, that Russia will be great again. Rumors fly about him because information is scarce. Secrecy is high, family is distant, no health updates, private life is curtained. Stories create themselves in the form of dear blood, body doubles, immortality. Putin's system is so focused that no one even dreams of winning elections against him at a large level. Those who try often find their story ending on one path, whether it's the path of prison, exile, or death. Conclusion. This was the story of Putin, who came from a communal room in Leningrad, through KGB offices, Dresden streets, Kremlin's corridors, to the battlefields of Ukraine. For some, he's a hero, for others, a villain. This depends on your perspective. We leave that decision to you. But it's certainly true that whatever major stories of the 21st century are written in history books, Vladimir Putin's name will undoubtedly remain on the top pages of the world. Whether those pages contain praise or condemnation, we leave that to your thinking. Thank you for watching this video and listening to this story.